My beloved child. At 9:06 tonight, your soulmate opened your old conversation for the first time in almost 7 months. They didn't scroll through photographs. They didn't reread old arguments. They didn't check whether you had changed your profile picture. They simply stared at your name. Then typed, "I need to tell you something before Friday." They read it. Deleted it. Tried again. There is something about our breakup you still don't know. Deleted. Then a third version, "I lied to you about the future." Your soulmate stopped. Their hands started shaking. Because this time, the sentence was true. They didn't send it yet. Instead, they scheduled a reminder on their phone, Friday, 7 p.m., tell them everything. Their younger sister Ava saw it. She had walked into the room carrying laundry. She stopped behind them. "What is that?" Your soulmate immediately locked the phone. "Nothing." Ava stared. "Is that their name?" Silence. "You're contacting them?" Your soulmate looked down. "This week." Ava's expression changed. "Why now?" Your soulmate didn't answer. Then Ava looked toward the small paper bag sitting beside them. A jewelry store bag. Old. Wrinkled. She frowned. "What is that?" Your soulmate's eyes filled. Then finally, "Something I should have shown them before we ever broke up." Ava slowly sat down. "What?" Your soulmate opened the bag. Inside was a receipt. Dated 8 months earlier. And underneath it, a photograph of a ring. A ring you had never seen. Ava covered her mouth. "No way." Your soulmate whispered, "I bought it 3 days before I told them I didn't know if I saw marriage with them." Silence. Ava stared. "What?" Your soulmate started crying. They looked toward your old conversation again. Then said, "And tonight I found out why I returned it." Pause. The reason wasn't even true. That was when Ava understood. This wasn't simply about your soulmate missing you. This wasn't another late-night emotional moment. Something had happened tonight. Something connected to the final weeks of your relationship. Something that made your soulmate realize that both of you had been living inside 2 completely different versions of the same ending. And this week, they had finally decided to break the silence. Before we continue, remember this is an emotional storytelling message, not a literal prediction that someone will contact you this week or that anyone can know another person's private thoughts. But stay with this story. Because the ring isn't the biggest reveal. The biggest reveal is why your soulmate bought it. Why they returned it. And why they looked into your eyes 3 days later and told you almost the exact opposite of what they had secretly planned. Months earlier, you and your soulmate had reached a serious stage in the relationship. Not perfect. Serious. You knew their family. They knew your closest friends. You had keys to each other's places. You talked about future trips. Possible cities. what kind of home you liked. Even ridiculous things. You once argued for 20 minutes over whether a future kitchen needed an island. Your soulmate laughed and said, "We don't even live together." You replied, "I'm preparing for the argument early." They loved that. Because for a long time, talking about the future with you felt safe when it was imaginary. Then the future started becoming real. That's when your soulmate changed. You noticed first. Whenever marriage came up casually, they became tense. If a friend got engaged, your soulmate would smile, congratulate them, then become strangely quiet later. One evening, you finally asked, "Does marriage scare you?" They looked at you. Why? Because your face changes every time someone says the word. They laughed nervously. No, it doesn't. It does. You waited. Then, "I'm not asking you to propose." I know. I'm asking whether you see marriage in your future. Your soulmate looked down. After a long pause, "Maybe." Your stomach tightened. Maybe marriage? Maybe. Or maybe marriage with me? Their face changed. That isn't what I said. Then what are you saying? They sighed. I don't know. There. The answer you were starting to hate. You nodded slowly. Okay. Your soulmate immediately became nervous. What? Nothing. Please don't do that. Do what? Say okay when you're clearly hurt. You looked at them. Then, "I'm trying not to punish you for being honest." That silenced them. You continued, "But yes. It hurts." Your soulmate reached for your hand. "I love you." I know. Then you asked, "Do you understand why 'I love you' isn't the answer to every future question?" They stared. You continued, "I already know what you feel. I need to know whether you're willing to build with those feelings." Your soulmate couldn't answer. Not clearly. And that became the pattern. You would ask, "Do you think we'll live together? Someday." When? I don't know. Do you want kids? Probably. With me? Why are you making everything specific? Your face would fall. Then your soulmate would panic because you looked hurt. And suddenly, "I love you. I don't want to lose you. You're the most important person in my life." Beautiful words. Real words. But you were starting to notice something. Your soulmate became most romantic when you were closest to giving up. One night you finally said, "I don't need you to become more loving every time I get tired." They frowned. What does that mean? I need you to become more decisive before I get tired. That sentence followed them for months. But something you never knew? Your soulmate had been thinking about marriage more than they admitted. A lot more. They had even started looking at rings. Secretly. At first. Just online. Then in person. They told nobody except their mother. When their mother found out, she stared at them. "You're serious?" Your soulmate smiled nervously. "I think so." "You think so?" They laughed. "I know I love them." Their mother sat down. "Then, marriage is different." "I know. You two still argue." "Everybody argues." "You still have doubts." Your soulmate became quiet. Their mother continued, "Don't propose because you're scared they'll leave." That line hit. Because your soulmate knew their fear of losing you was part of what had pushed them to look at rings. So they paused. Then spent several weeks asking themselves, "Do I want marriage? Or do I simply want reassurance that they'll never leave?" Eventually, they arrived at an answer. Both. They were scared. But they also genuinely wanted a life with you. So they went back to the jewelry store and bought the ring. No family announcement. No huge plan. Just a ring. They put it inside a drawer. Then started preparing to tell you something they had never been able to say clearly. "I don't know exactly how everything works out." Pause. "But yes. I want to build toward marriage with you." That was all you had wanted. Not a proposal immediately. Direction. Your soulmate planned to talk to you that weekend. Then came their mother's birthday dinner. The night everything changed. You were there. Family. Friends. Ava. Your soulmate. Their mother. You had arrived slightly late. Dinner was loud. People moving everywhere. At one point, you stepped into the backyard with your friend Sophie. You thought nobody was listening. You were upset. Sophie had asked, "How are things?" You answered, "Complicated." "Still the future problem?" You nodded. Then said, "I can't marry them like this." Inside the house, your soulmate's mother was walking past the open kitchen window. She stopped. She heard those words. Only those words. "I can't marry them like this." Her stomach dropped. She didn't stay. Didn't hear what came next. You continued talking to Sophie. You said, "I love them." Sophie replied, "I know." Then you explained, "But every time something gets serious, they panic. I don't need them fearless. I need them to stop treating every difficult conversation like proof we're wrong for each other." Sophie asked, "So you don't want marriage?" You looked shocked. "What?" "Then, I want marriage with them." Pause. "That's why this hurts." Your voice broke. You continued, "If they can learn to stay present when they're scared," then you laughed through tears. "I'd probably marry them tomorrow." Sophie smiled. "You're ridiculous." "I know." Then you went back inside. You never knew your soulmate's mother had heard the first sentence. And only the first sentence. Later that night, she called your soulmate. "Can we talk?" Your soulmate was still thinking about the ring. They smiled. What's wrong? Their mother became uncomfortable. Then, I heard something tonight. What? She hesitated. Then, they said they can't marry you. Your soulmate's face changed. What? I heard them talking to Sophie. What exactly did they say? Their mother answered honestly, I heard, I can't marry them like this. Your soulmate stared. Like what? I don't know. Did you hear anything else? No, that should have ended it. Your soulmate should have asked you. Simple. What did you mean? Instead, fear did what fear had always done. It filled the missing information. You had been asking about marriage for months. Maybe not because you wanted it. Maybe because you were trying to discover whether your soulmate was capable of giving you what you needed. Maybe you had already decided they weren't. Suddenly, the ring inside the drawer felt humiliating. Your soulmate thought, I've been preparing to tell them I want marriage, while they're telling other people they can't marry me. Their mother saw their face. Then said, please talk to them before you assume anything. Important. She did say it. She wasn't deliberately trying to separate you. But your soulmate replied, no, why? Because if they don't see a future, I don't want to beg. Their mother said, you don't know that's what they meant. Your soulmate answered, I know them. Except they didn't know this. Not because they didn't love you. Because they had half a sentence. And fear. The next morning, your soulmate took the ring back to the store. They stood at the counter almost 20 minutes. The employee asked, did something happen? Your soulmate smiled sadly. Apparently. They returned it. Then came to see you. You immediately noticed something. What is wrong? Nothing. Your face changed. Please stop saying nothing. Your soulmate sat down. Then asked, do you actually want to marry me someday? You froze. Not because your answer was no. Because after months of you asking the future questions, your soulmate had suddenly asked one. You smiled slightly. Where did that come from? Just answer. You looked at them. Then, yes. Your soulmate's heart should have relaxed. Instead, they heard the sentence again. I can't marry them like this. They asked, are you sure? Your smile faded. Yes. Then why do I sometimes feel like you're waiting for me to become somebody else? Your expression changed. I don't want you to become somebody else. Then what? You took a breath. I need some things to change. There. Your soulmate thought, Mom was right. You continued, communication. Not disappearing. Being able to discuss the future without you looking trapped. Your soulmate's face hardened. You noticed. What? They shook their head. Nothing. Why are you asking questions if you're going to punish me for answering? That made them defensive. I'm not punishing you. You are clearly upset. Then your soulmate said, maybe you're right. You frowned. About what? Maybe we're trying to force something that isn't supposed to work. Your heart dropped. What? Your soulmate was already scared. Already grieving a rejection you had never made. They continued, maybe marriage isn't something I can promise you. You stared. Months of conversations. Your worst fear. Suddenly confirmed. You asked, ever? They looked away. I don't know. Your eyes filled. There it was. Again. But now it sounded final. You whispered, then why did you just ask if I wanted to marry you? Your soulmate had no answer they could admit. So they said, I needed to know. Know what? Whether we're expecting different things. Your voice became quieter. I just told you I want marriage with you. Your soulmate looked at you. Then said the sentence that ended everything, I don't think I can give you that. Silence. You nodded. Once. Then stood. Your soulmate panicked. Where are you going? Home. Can we talk? You looked at them. I think we just did. They followed you toward the door. I love you. You stopped. Turned. And said, I know. Pause. But I can't keep building a relationship where love is clear and everything love is supposed to build stays permanently undecided. You left. Your soulmate didn't chase. They wanted to. But in their mind, you had already said you couldn't marry them. So they told themselves, this hurts, but maybe we're both finally admitting the truth. Except you weren't. You went home devastated. You told Sophie, they said they can't give me marriage. Sophie was shocked. What? You cried. I think they finally meant it. Sophie asked, did you tell them what you said to me at the birthday? You frowned. Why would I? She didn't know their mother had overheard anything. So the conversation ended there. Months passed. Your soulmate told family, we wanted different futures. Their mother believed it. She never realized the sentence she overheard had influenced everything. You told friends, they loved me. They just couldn't choose a future. Both stories felt true. Neither was complete. Then tonight. Almost 7 months later. Your soulmate's mother was creating a video for her birthday. Ava was helping. Old family videos. Photos. Little clips from last year. They reached the birthday dinner. Ava played a short video she had taken outside. Nothing important. She had been recording the family dog trying to steal food. Everyone laughed. Then, in the background, your voice. Quiet. But audible. Ava almost skipped it. Their mother stopped her. Wait. They turned up the volume. Your voice, I can't marry them like this. Their mother froze. Then the recording continued. Words she had never heard. I love them. Pause. I want marriage with them. Your soulmate's mother stopped breathing. Ava stared at her. The video continued. If they can learn to stay present when they're scared, then you'll laugh. I'd probably marry them tomorrow. Silence. Their mother's face went pale. Ava whispered, "What?" Their mother sat down. Then, I told them. Ava frowned. Told who? Your sibling. Pause. I told them I heard that you couldn't marry them. Ava stared. But that's not what they said. I know. Did you tell them you only heard part? Yes. Did they ask them? Their mother looked down. No, Ava immediately called your soulmate. That is why. At 9:06 tonight. Your soulmate opened your old conversation. Because their mother had just sent the full video. They listened once. Then again. Then sat completely still. Everything returned. The ring. The jewelry store. Your answer, yes, I want to marry you. Their accusation, maybe you're waiting for me to become somebody else. Then, I don't think I can give you that. Your soulmate started crying. They called their mother. Not angrily. At first. They asked, "Did you know there was more?" She said, "No, did you tell me to ask them?" Yes. You did. Pause. I didn't. Their mother started crying. I am sorry. Your soulmate replied, "This isn't all on you." That mattered. Then, you gave me half a sentence. Pause. I built the rest of the story myself. Their mother stayed silent. Your soulmate continued, "I had a ring. She knew. I returned it the next morning." Her voice broke. I know. Then, and 3 days later I told the person I wanted to marry that I didn't think I could give them marriage. Silence. There. The truth. No villain needed. One overheard fragment. One frightened assumption. One question never asked. And 2 people lost 7 months. But another truth was coming. Ava asked, "Do you still have the receipt?" Your soulmate did. They kept it. Why? They didn't know. Maybe proof to themselves that once they had been braver than they remembered. They pulled out the old jewelry bag. Receipt. Photograph of the ring. Then Ava asked, "Are you going to tell them?" Your soulmate looked at your name. Then answered, "This week." Why not tonight? Because they had finally learned something. Emotion is not the same as clarity. Tonight was huge. Raw. Shocking. If they contacted you immediately, would they be doing it because they understood? Or because 7 months of regret had just exploded open? So your soulmate gave themselves until Friday. Not to avoid. To think. They wrote down what they actually needed to tell you. Not, my mother ruined us. That wasn't true. Not, you misunderstood me. You hadn't. You believed the words they gave you. Your soulmate wrote, 1. I heard half a sentence and never asked you what it meant. Then, 2. I bought a ring before I told you I couldn't imagine marriage. Then, 3. I returned it because I was afraid you had rejected a future I had never even offered you clearly. And finally, 4. I punished you for a rejection that happened mostly inside my own head. That fourth one hurt the most. Because it was true. Friday evening arrived. 7 o'clock, your phone lit up. Your soulmate's name. You stared. Then the first message, I learned something this week about the night of my mother's birthday. Another, there was an old video. Your heart tightened. Then, I heard the rest of what you told Sophie. You froze. What? You remembered that conversation. Another message, my mother heard only, I can't marry them like this. Your face changed. Then, she told me. Pause. And I never asked you what you meant. Your heart started pounding. Then, I need to tell you something I am ashamed I never told you. Long pause. A photograph arrived. A ring. Your breath stopped. Then the receipt. Date. 3 days before your breakup. Your soulmate wrote, I bought this for you. You stared at the screen. Another, not because I was planning to surprise propose immediately. I bought it because I had finally decided I wanted to build toward marriage with you. Your eyes filled. Then, I returned it the morning after Mom overheard you. Pause. And 3 days later I told you I didn't think I could give you marriage. You sat down. Everything inside you was moving too quickly. Anger. Sadness. Relief. Disbelief. You typed, why didn't you ask me? Your soulmate answered, fear. Then, pride. Another, I was terrified you didn't want the future I had finally decided I wanted. Pause. So I rejected it before you could reject me. You stared. Then, that was unfair to you. You answered, I told you I wanted marriage. Your soulmate replied, you did. Then, and instead of believing the answer you gave me directly, I believed the meaning I had already attached to something I overheard secondhand. There. Accountability. You asked, why now? Your soulmate took several minutes. Then, because I don't want you carrying a story where you were asking for a future I never wanted. Pause. I wanted it. Your eyes filled. Another message, I was just more afraid of losing it than I was willing to admit. Then, that fear made me destroy it first. You didn't answer for almost an hour. Your soulmate waited. No second message. No begging. Finally, do you still want that future? Your soulmate stared at your question. The easy answer was, yes. Immediately. But 7 months had passed. So they wrote, I still want you in my life. Pause. And I still believe marriage could be part of a future I would want with you. Then, but I don't think either of us should pretend 7 months disappeared because an old video explained one misunderstanding. Good. You read it again. Then, one conversation. Your soulmate smiled. Tell me where. You met the next day. No ring. Your soulmate deliberately left it, or rather, the photograph of it, at home. Because they understood something. The ring was evidence. Not leverage. When you sat down, you asked, were you really going to propose? Your soulmate smiled nervously. Eventually. Eventually? I hadn't planned the moment. You raised your eyebrow. So you bought a ring with no plan? They laughed. Yes. That sounds like you. For the first time. You both smiled. Then you became serious. You told me you couldn't give me marriage. Your soulmate looked down. I know. That destroyed me. They nodded. I am sorry. You waited. No excuse. Then they said, I thought I was protecting myself from hearing you say no. Pause. Instead I made you live inside my no. That landed. You looked away. Your soulmate continued, you asked me direct questions. I answered them through fear. You told me you wanted a future. I treated your needs for change as proof you didn't want me. Then, I confused, I can't marry you like this with, I can't marry you. Your eyes filled. Yes. Then you explained what, like this, had meant. I couldn't marry someone I was afraid to have difficult conversations with. Your soulmate nodded. I understand. You continued, I couldn't marry someone whose answer to every future question was maybe. Yes. I couldn't marry someone who became certain only when I was halfway out the door. Their face changed. That one hurts. It should. They nodded. Fair. Then you said, but I wanted to marry you. Your soulmate's eyes filled instantly. You continued, that was the entire reason I was so frustrated. If I didn't see a future, I wouldn't have cared so much whether you were capable of building one. Silence. Your soulmate wiped their eyes. Then you asked, what changed in 7 months besides knowing what I said? Important question. Your soulmate answered specifically. I make decisions differently. How? I stopped treating uncertainty like a stop sign. Then, if I don't know exactly how something ends, I still decide whether it's worth trying. You listened. I also stopped letting my mother translate what other people mean. You almost smiled. That seems useful. Extremely. Then they became serious. And I stopped using silence to avoid answers. You asked, really? Mostly. You raised an eyebrow. They laughed. I'm still a work in progress. Good. You didn't reunite that afternoon. You didn't discuss ring sizes. No wedding fantasy. Instead, You agreed to talk again. And the real test came quickly. A few weeks later, you said something that bothered your soulmate. Old version: go home. Think about it for 3 days. Ask their mother what you meant. This time, they looked at you. Then asked, when you said that, what did you mean? You stared. Then smiled. What? Nothing. No, seriously. You answered. 20 seconds. Misunderstanding gone. Your soulmate laughed. That was disturbingly easy. You replied, imagine what we could have saved in therapy bills. Both laughed. Another evening. You asked, do you still get scared when I talk about marriage? Your soulmate thought. Yes. You smiled. Good answer. They continued, but now the fear isn't telling me I don't want it. Pause. It's telling me it matters. They're different. You nodded. Then, I don't need a proposal. I know. You looked at them. They laughed. Sorry. Then, I hear you. Better. My beloved child. This week, your soulmate finally broke their silence. But what they revealed was bigger than, I miss you. Bigger than, I still love you. Months ago. Before telling you they couldn't imagine marriage. They had already bought the ring. They were preparing to tell you, yes. I want a future. Then their mother overheard 7 words, I can't marry them like this. And your soulmate made the mistake that changed everything. They never asked what came next. They didn't hear, I want marriage with them. They didn't hear, if they can learn to stay present when they're scared, I'd probably marry them tomorrow. They heard a fragment. And fear wrote the ending. The shocking reveal isn't simply that there was a ring. It's that your soulmate rejected a future you were both quietly wanting. Because each of you thought the other person was saying no. And the hardest truth? You gave them the correct answer directly. Yes, I want marriage with you. But they trusted an assumption more than your answer. That is the part they finally have to own. If this story touched your heart, comment, I choose questions over fear. Not as a spell. Not to make someone contact you this week. As a reminder. Half a sentence can destroy a relationship when fear is allowed to complete it. A family member can misunderstand. A friend can mishear. A text can look different without context. But eventually, the responsibility comes back to the 2 people inside the relationship. Ask. Clarify. Listen. Because your soulmate spent 7 months believing, you didn't want the future they were finally ready to offer. And you spent 7 months believing, they had never wanted that future at all. Both were wrong. This week, the silence finally broke. And the biggest confession wasn't hidden inside a love message. It was sitting on an old jewelry store receipt all along. Your soulmate had already started choosing a future with you, before fear convinced them you had chosen against it.